places on a visit from afar. And so we're happy to get you plugged in. We do think it's important, again, for us to see as many people in the CMT community as possible. We think we have something to offer to help make sure that you're functioning at your best. But it's also important for us to get the information so that we can plug it into our network, our international consortium for CMT, and fight this on all levels. So lastly, I keep forgetting to point out that our partners from the Muscular Dystrophy Association are also here. So the Muscular Dystrophy Association is another large umbrella organization that includes CMT, and we're very excited to work with them. So we're really trying to link arms and work with all available communities and organizations to fight CMT in all ways that we can. So, okay, hopefully that little preamble gave us enough time. The website. So, Jennifer, I don't see, but we will make sure that you have the URL for our website so that you can get the information. And I will try to come up with a way to post that, to get that information to you. I think many of you have Jennifer's contact information and she can connect you up. We have a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, we have all kinds of things that are available to help make sure that we keep this information flowing in both directions. We want to hear from you so we know we're doing as much as we can, and we want you to know exactly what we're up to. So it's my pleasure, 10 minutes late, and we will accommodate that.
That's okay.
But to introduce Elizabeth Misener, who also made a trip across country to be here with us today, and it brings another unique perspective on how to combat CMT on a different level. So, Elizabeth, thank you very much. Really look forward to your talk.
So first of all, can you hear me? No, we can't hear me at all. This one? Okay. Then nothing works. So thank you all. It's always a pleasure going after lunch. We were out for dinner last night, and my 9-year-old said, how do you know if you're a good speaker? And he said, in my opinion, it's how many people have their heads on the table, on their arm asleep after. So please, if you fall asleep, keep your head up so he'll think that I did a good job. And my goal is to make you laugh once. So already I feel like I've been successful. My name is Elizabeth, and it's a hard act to follow David, my husband, who went before me, because he did such a great job. But in a way, you might see that we're a lot alike, because we've been together since we were 17. And since Dave was nice enough to say his age, that's over 30 years together. So I myself don't have CMT, but I have been living with it with a person that I love for over 30 years. And I have a son, Ethan, in the back, who's 12, who has CMT. And as David said, a lot of his family members have CMT. So for us, it's a way of being. I've grown up understanding CMT, which I know is not the same for everybody. Some people, they're the first, or they don't have a lot of family. But I'd love to see how many of you, is this the first conference that you've been to for CMT? A show of hands? Oh, look isn't that wonderful? That's amazing. Well done. And second, how many of you have driven over 2 hours to be here? Oh, good. Wow, great. And anybody else had the pleasure of flying like we did to get here? Oh, wow, excellent, amazing. So everybody in this room, we all have something in common. And this is why I love being up here. You either have CMT or we love somebody with CMT. And that's what brings us together. And my goal for today is if I were to tell you there were a magic pill to help you deal with CMT, I think most of us would probably take it, and that is the science of happiness. I'm a social worker by training, have been doing this for many, many years, and in the past about 15 to 20 years, there's this whole area of research that's been come out that is evidence-based, which means we know that it works, and that's my goal for today, is just to teach a few things that can help on happiness. So my goal is to hopefully inspire you. Not only do I talk about this, I live it, I breathe it, I eat it. I mean, this is my life. The other day I was bringing home a book. There's a new book out called What Makes Happy Families Do Well. And my 12-year-old saw it and he said, please, not another book. We don't want to try something else. So you can see we're always trying new things. So what I'm going to talk about today are some things that I feel in our family have worked. And that's my goal, is to give you some actual tools that hopefully then you can apply, even if it's just one of them. So the first one I just want to quickly start with, and it's more for me than it is for you to make sure I feel centered, is just a breathing exercise. If you just want to focus on your breath, bring your attention to here and now, just an awareness of how you're breathing. We're all breathing, just to focus on that. And that's it. It can be as simple as focusing on your breath can get us into what we're going to be talking about. There's not magic behind this. There's not, you have to go out and run a mile, which a lot of us can't do or don't want to do. This can be really simple to incorporate. So my main takeaway points, I'm giving you all the spoilers ahead just in case you fall asleep, you'll know what we talked about, is the idea that this is based on science. This is not just me telling you it works because I've tried it and it works for me. There's science. There's a lot of research. And I'm not going to talk about the research part, but if you're interested in anything, there are amazing articles. There are, things that you can take away. But what I do know is this worked really well on me. When David met me at 17, you can go up and ask him. I was not the happiest person. I was probably a pretty miserable teenager. So we spent a lot of time, and I spent a lot of time on building my own tools to make life more pleasurable instead of living in misery all the time. So I am my own baseline. I use my children and David. We're all experiments in this life. The next thing is our brain. I'm only going to spend a little bit on our brain, but our brain is a muscle. Most of us, when our stomach growls, we don't just jump up and go get food. Now, some of us do it more than others, but most of the time you hear your stomach growl, you'll take a deep breath and you'll say, okay, I have to wait till lunch, or I have to wait 10 minutes. Our brain is no different than our stomach, except that we allow it to control us most of the time. And that's because of how we've developed. So what the science that we're going to talk about today is allowing us to control our brain. So that's one of the goals for today. And so this would be, if I say the word elephant, pink elephant, and I tell you not to think about that, probably 90% of you are going to think about pink elephant because your brain's taken over and you start to fixate on pink elephant. It might not go out of your head and you'll be cursing me tonight about pink elephants, and I apologize. But we'll come up with some tools that can hopefully help around that. I'm a big believer we don't have a choice about CMT yet. Maybe one day there'll be that pill, there'll be that cure, but CMT is our reality. Whether you have it yourself, whether you love somebody with it, that is our reality. We can't change that. What we can change is how we think and feel about it. And this is as simple as holding up a glass. Is this half full or half empty? It's the exact same glass, the exact same amount of liquid. Some of us are going to see it as half full, some of us are going to see it as half empty. Neither is right or wrong. It's just an awareness of what we think, because that will shape our lives. That shapes us moving forward. And finally, you can grow more content in life. So for example, please indulge me and just smile. Let me just see everybody smile, even if it's a fake smile, even if you haven't smiled in a long time. That, just by smiling, you're setting off endorphins in your brain that says, I must be happy, even if you're not inside. So a small smile can even make it a little bit more content. So happiness is not something that you get in life. Happiness is something you bring to life. So if you're sitting and waiting around for your life to get better, happier, you'll be sitting for a long time because it's not going to happen that way. We have to be active, just like what David was talking about. If your braces don't work the first time, you have to be active to go back and make them work. And this is about life too. We have to really work on it and bring it. And this is why I do all this. For Ethan, for myself, for Spencer, for David. This was on our trip down from San Diego, or up, I guess we're up high now, and we stopped at Joshua Park, and there's some amazing boulders that Spencer, my 9-year-old without CMT, sees as a playground, right? I'm gonna go climb, I'm gonna love it, and I'm thinking, oh no, what are we gonna do with Ethan, who can't climb, who can't do this? And lo and behold, once again, he beat all my expectations. He got up there, and this was the look of, I can do it. And that's part of that instilling of, that he doesn't see the glass as half empty. He sees it as half full, and he keeps pushing himself to be able to enjoy some of these things. Was it exhausting? Was it hard? All of those, yes, but did he succeed? Yes. Now with orthotics, which would be very happy, right? AFOs, they were on, and that really helped. So that's one of the tools we had to use to get there. So this science of happiness is kind of the catchphrase. Where this comes out of, and maybe some of you have heard of, is the field of positive psychology. So the field of psychology has been around forever, and my area of expertise is depression and anxiety. So I could diagnose depression and anxiety, no problem, and that's been around for a long time. But this new field of the science of positive psychology has really looked on a balance. We're not negating the hard parts of CMT. Right? That it's hard. It can be a daily struggle. It can be an hourly struggle. We struggle with the school system we're with. I can't tell you how many times we have to go in and advocate. I'm not doing regular PE. We can't walk, do this, do that. Writing tests take longer. But we're recognizing that a balance is required. So we're not denying the negative. I'm not being in la-la land, that it's not hard with CMT, that life isn't tough. But I want a balance. I don't want my whole day to be run by something that I have no control over. So that's where this science of positive psychology really came out, is that balance. This was really pushed in the 1990s and really looking at flourishing. And that's what we're looking at. How do we help people flourish? So how do we help anybody, but especially people, and this really started with people with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, that are really well labeled with having, drawbacks, having struggles, but now this is being applied across the board. People who struggle with ability issues, anybody, and there's a lot of amazing research out there to support that this can work. So this is what we're doing. We're shifting from how to fix what isn't working to build on what is working. And that's the real emphasis. How do we build on what is working? So this is part of what we'll focus a little bit today. What's working for you right now? Just think in your head, what are one or two things that are working for you? You have a community here. That's amazing, right? That's working. You have resources, you have people, you have an amazing center of excellence here. That's working. So what else can be working for you? And that's what we really want to focus on, not what isn't, not the daily, not really a lot of the emphasis on what isn't working. And then we really build on what am I good at? And we'll talk a little bit about this, but all of the people that I know with CMT, Dave's family, and people I've met through the CMTA, perseverance. Can I tell you, there's no problem that Dave or Ethan or anybody else can overcome. I see a problem, I want to walk away. They're like, nope, we're going to push through, we're going to get it, we're going to figure out. If I don't know how to do this, I'm going to figure out a tool to help me make the coffee. Or I'm going to do this, I'm not going to stop. Creativity, very creative in the amount of things or designs. And you can see up here, the next presenter, all of these options to help if you can't do things. So it's starting to be creative around those things. So, what is happiness? Happiness is a state of well-being and contentment. This is how the research defines it. So happiness, I think a lot of people think happy is like this la-la land, right? You're always kind of la-la-y off, having a good time, nothing ever goes wrong, but that's not what it is. It's this state of well-being and contentment. So this was Ethan and Spencer quite a few years ago, and to me, that captures it. What does it look like to be content, and what does that mean? And so a lot of this is what we're going to talk about. How do you build that state of contentment and well-being? Well, the research shows we can cultivate it. There's not yet a happy gene that if you don't have it, you won't be able to live this way. There is some research that shows, and I don't know what the percentage is because it's always changing, maybe about 30% of us are predetermined by our genetic makeup to be happier, but it doesn't mean we can't all be content in life. It might just be more of a struggle for some people to get there. So how do we cultivate it? On our trip, we saw a lot of, and I know I'm going to get this wrong, whether they're seals or sea lions, I can't get them all, but to me, this is a scale of 10, right? These animals have nothing they're thinking about in that moment. So that is how I see ultimate happiness, and this is how our brains were wired way, way back. We were wired for fight or flight, or to be just kind of mellow. These guys are not in fight or flight. Now the next moment when the wave comes, they're on guard, and they're no longer at a 10, they're probably at a 1. But the wave goes away, they go back to sleep. So I think it's really important for us to think, how content are you right now in life? Right now, here at this conference, right now. So on a scale of 1 to 10, scale yourself. Are you a 1? That's great, at least you know. Are you a 10? Then please share your secrets with everybody else, because that's the ultimate goal, which I think that's amazing, but we don't have to be at a 10. So what I do with a lot of my clients and a lot of people is check in. Where am I on the scale of 1 to 10? I'm at a 5. Well, things could be a lot worse, or they could be a lot better. Which way do I want to go? So that's part of us always checking in with ourselves. So please don't fall asleep. I'm going to make this really simple. But we need to understand a little bit about our brain and what happens. So what we know is an event happens. We then move into thinking or feeling about it, and then our brain takes over. So it becomes an automatic thought. And you might have heard this, right? So as Dave was saying, a lot of you, I know, walk into a room, you trip, right away you go into that, oh no, okay, everybody's looking at me, this is what's happening, and your brain's taken over, and you never want to go back into a crowded room again. But that's not always what happens. And please excuse my next slide, but I think those of you who struggle with this will appreciate the profanity in it. I simply cannot wait to go to bed tonight and lay there worrying about the stuff I can't control. This is our brain taking over, and it happens to a lot of us. And what the research in positive psychology shows is there are ways you can deal with this, and there are productive ways of dealing with this. But if you want to worry about things, that's great. Know it's a choice. And to me, that's the ultimate line, that it is a choice whether you want to worry about things or not. And if you do, I appreciate, because then the rest of us don't necessarily have to. So an event happens, we move into thinking and feeling, and we can get into the science, all of this, our prefrontal cortex, our limbic system, but that would put you to sleep, and then Spencer would know I'd done a really bad job. So we'll stay away from that right now, but just knowing that we can develop this part of our brain behind our forehead through some of these tools that we're going to be learning today that allows our brain not to take over. Typically, our brain takes over, and then we do that smiling or that just pause for a minute, and we realize our brain has taken over. We don't usually catch our brain taking over in the beginning. But this is what Dave stole from me this morning. It takes skill to trip over flat surfaces. And this is true. This is you come in, you trip, your brain takes over, and we have this cycle here. So what I want us to do is to really be able to kind of intervene in our brain taking over. That's where this whole science, positive psychology, is going to be kind of leading us to. So one of the ways is by observation, and we call this mindfulness. So just taking a moment, and if actually you could indulge me for a minute and close your eyes, and think about how many people are sitting at your table. Do you even know how many people are sitting at your table? Can you think of all of the colors of the shirts those people are wearing? And now you can open your eyes again. That's what we're talking about, is mindfulness, being aware of who's sitting at your table. Now look around, because your curiosity, you're probably wondering, was somebody in blue, was somebody in green? Maybe saying hello to the people if you've never met them before, an acknowledgement, a little nod that these are people we don't even know, a nice community. And that's what this picture, you look at the bee with the pollen on it, really mindful of, oh, it's a flower, and then move on. What the science out of positive psychology shows us is really pausing to look at that is what we call mindfulness. And it means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, without judgment. This is so simple and so hard at the same time. Like, this is really simple to do. And if you do this, when I tell you the benefits of what this leads to, why aren't we doing it all the time? By focusing on here and now, we're less likely to have anxiety. We're not worrying about the future. We're about to get on a flight. I've heard the weather is bad. We're not getting home till 9 a.m. My kids are going to be grumpy. See, I can go down the whole list. I could spend the next 10 minutes just talking about the things I'm worried about. Or I can regret over the past On our trip here, we didn't stop at some places. We actually did some things that I wouldn't do again. So I could spend my whole next 10 minutes telling you all the things we didn't do right. But instead, I don't want to be stressed out. I want to improve my overall health. And that's living in the moment, right here and now. It doesn't mean we don't plan for the future. It doesn't mean we don't think about it. But when we catch ourselves worried about, how much will I be able to walk a year from now? Is my CMT going to get worse? Am I not going to be able to do these things independently? Time goes on, it will happen, but if we worry about it now, it's still going to happen. So we want to make it so we're the strongest we can be to deal with whatever comes. And that's kind of one of the real goals. So mindfulness is the simple process of actively noticing new things. So you can do this each day. You just wake up in the morning, notice new things. And not the new things that you're missing, but maybe the new things that are enhancing your life. So we sometimes are really trained to look for the negative because we had to do that as a species to survive. But now most of us, our basic needs are met. So it's more looking for the things that are going well each day. I am so grateful for being alive. It's my joy and pleasure to live another wonderful day. We might not be at that extreme, but if we're at least grateful for waking up and halfway there, that might be a little bit. And this is, I tell you, we do experiments all the time in our house. When Spencer was about 5, he started to wake up saying, I'm not going to school, I hate school. Every morning was a cry. And I'm like, as anybody who's a parent knows, that is not a nice way to start the day. So I know enough that you can retrain your brain. So I said, Spencer, just bear with me. This was when he was young enough to be bribed. So he wanted a Lego set. So I said, if just for 5 days you wake up saying you like school, at the end of that, I'll give you a Lego set. And so he's like, the first day, okay, I think I like school today, but I can't tell you what I really like. So that was okay. The next day, a little better. By day 5, he actually was looking forward to school. And we've never had an issue since. And I don't have to get him a new Lego set every week. He got 1 Lego set and we're done. But it's that retraining the brain that I knew I had to intervene with him or we would have 30 years of misery at school and it wouldn't go away. So it's as simple as those kind of things. So the next one, we've talked about mindfulness. That's one of the key components, which is just bringing your attention to here and now. The next one is gratitude. And this is all we have to do is affirmation of goodness. The idea that goodness is outside of ourselves. So for example, I am so grateful to be with this community, like to be here with you in the most amazing place. I mean, I think those of you who live here don't even realize how beautiful it is. Those of us from the East Coast are really grateful to be experiencing such an amazing place. And how we do this, there are 3 parts of gratitude. So first of all, that we are thankful for something. So I know you all have flashcards in front of you. If you want to bear with me, and you don't have to do this, but if you'd like to do it, just write down 1 or 2 things that you're thankful for. And you don't have to share with anybody, but this just gets you to start to kind of experience what you can do any time to feel more in the moment. So something you're thankful for, that's scanning. Most of the time it's outside of us. So that's when we're first scanning. The next part is expressing that thanks. This is the cognitive part. This is when we're pulling in our brain to actually make it more than just something inside of us. So whatever you wrote down on there, if it's somebody you're thankful for, maybe the person who brought you here, maybe the person who helps you every day, walks, stabilizes you, helps you around the house. Those of us who live with people with CMT, that thankfulness, you can say it to them at some point. Whatever it is that you're expressing. And the next part is our body then feels it. We then feel that gratitude, and this shifts our chemical components inside. So it's pretty simple. Once again, really simple, right? But not really easy to do. Very, very simple. And the research shows that this works. If a couple times a day you're scanning for something you're thankful for, you're expressing it, and then you're feeling it in your body, that changes the way that you kind of come across at life. This is leading towards more of the positive, the science of happiness. So what are the outcomes? If you don't believe me already, when you look at these outcomes, think of this as if a doctor came in today, a medical doctor, and said, here, just take this 1 pill and this is how you'll feel, I'm sure you would do it. reduces anxiety and depression. Not that any of us have that, right? Of course, but most of us do at some level. Some of us battle with anxiety or depression more than others. And I mean, so that's one thing. By expressing gratitude and just coming from this mindset, it reduces our anxiety and depression. And you know why? You're going to laugh at me. The secret is somebody's always worse off than we are. So if you can even be grateful for that, it makes you feel a little bit better, because there's always somebody that's a little worse off than we are. And so that I know might sound terrible, but even that little edge can help us feel better about ourselves. The next thing, you get better sleep. Anybody going back to that owl, stays awake all night? You try this, you get better sleep. So we're trying to, and we know the benefit of sleep. Benefit of sleep on your body is so important. That component of sleep helps buffer against mental health issues. More resilient, you are strengthening your relationships, you're increasing your life satisfaction, stronger immune system, lower blood pressure, and you want to feel it again. That content feeling of doing something that makes you feel good, you want to do more and more of. And if none of that works, you feel connected. You feel connected to your community, you feel connected to other people, because part of gratitude is expressing it outside of ourselves. So we have to connect to somebody, we have to kind of share it and pay it forward. So one thing you can do, there are different ways. Some people, those of you who work, you can just do a little post-it note for some of your coworkers. You can say to the people in your life once a day, make it conscious. Once a day, I'm going to say one good thing about each person. You can pay it forward. You've heard of those movements, right, where somebody ahead of you paid for the coffee and you're the benefit of that. So it can be random acts of gratitude and kind of paying it forward. But it's very simple. It doesn't ask for a lot of time, but this can be really, really simple. What we appreciate, appreciates. That's the goal. What the whole science of positive psychology is showing us is where we focus our attention, it grows. So you have the choice to focus your attention on what doesn't work, it will grow, or focus your attention on what is working, and it will grow more. It is your choice, and that's ultimately what we need to understand too. So one other thing, we did the quick smiling. This is a meditation that has been done some research around that really amazingly shows chemical reactions in your body. So if once again you'll just bear with me, this is one of those tools that is really simple. But if you just want to slowly allow a smile to spread on your face. And for some of you, this is a natural state. For some of you, you haven't smiled in a couple months, so it might feel a little awkward. So just slowly allow a smile to spread on your face. Feel the muscles around your mouth move as the smile grows and grows. Keep on smiling, don't stop yet. And really bring that awareness into your body. How are you feeling when you smile? And now you can let go of that smile, bring it back, relax your mouth, neutral position. And once again, bring another smile. Really consciously focus on the corners of your mouth, maybe thinking of a good comedy on TV, and now releasing that. And just notice slowly over time the difference in the feeling in your body. You're tricking that brain that has control over you into thinking that you're happy. And part of it is faking it until you make it. That is true. You do fake it till you make it. And eventually it becomes a normal way. I can't tell you how many times on our van ride up in the past 5 days, I just had to smile to myself saying, I'm happy. I'm really, really happy. 10 days with my kids in a van, I'm happy. And then eventually you start to realize it could be worse. So then you start to kind of trick yourself. So it does work. It really does work. So we've talked about mindfulness, we've talked about gratitude. The last one I want to wrap up with are strengths. And I'm just going to touch base on this, but strengths doesn't come from what you do, it comes from overcoming the things you once thought you couldn't do. Thinking back to that slide of Ethan standing on the rock with his thumbs, like, yeah, I did it. That was overcoming something that I didn't think he could do, and he didn't think he could do. So, to me, living with two people with CMT, I'm probably the one that sets up the barriers more than they do. I'm probably the one that protects them more than they even do, and they're always pushing me. No, we can do it. I'm like, are you sure? Yep, we can do it, because I don't want anybody to fail. And if you push yourself, there's a potential of failing. But what I found instead is that pushing yourself makes you feel actually really good about yourself. Within a limit. We wouldn't have climbed the biggest rock there because we know that's not possible. But start to think about your own strengths, because I think these are key. These are come out of a whole research on character strengths. There's a great assessment you can do online if you're not even sure what your strengths are. But what I see in our life is creativity. The ability to overcome the fingers that aren't strong. What can you do? What kind of tools? The creativity around those. The curiosity. I see that in our daily lives, different ways of doing different things. And the other one, perseverance, never stopping. Sometimes actually it becomes a problem, but most of the time it helps push people through. So these are kind of some of the character strengths. Think about yourself. What are your strengths? What do you do? What are you, really good at doing? Are you really good at zest? Do you have a lot of energy for life and a lot of vitality? I would argue that probably all of you have a love of learning, or you wouldn't be here. So you probably love to learn new things, enhance yourself from whatever's going on, or you wouldn't be taking the effort to come to a conference for the day. And finally, what are you good at? First one home wins. Okay. Damn, he's already home. See, the tortoise wins again. So you never know what your strengths are when somebody else looks at you, right? The hare's thinking, I've got this one down, I'm faster than you, but ultimately the tortoise is the smarter one. So just to wrap up, this science behind positive psychology works. We've just touched base, and these are the main ideas out of the field of positive psychology, and then all the research builds out of them. Gratitude, mindfulness, and doing more of what you're good at. The idea of your brain controlling you versus you controlling it. Most of us have a baseline of our brain controlling us, not us controlling it. So part of it is switching into using this amazing tool to operate for us instead of it running us. We don't have a choice about CMT, but we sure have a choice about how we're going to deal with it and what we're going to think about it. And then finally, we can grow more content in our life. I don't think, and the research doesn't say 100% happiness, we're looking for a balance. And that balance of contentment versus dissatisfaction. A lot of great resources out there, amazing books for all of you who love to learn. Just type in positive psychology, type in happiness, and you'll find a lot of information out there. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.